everybody? Welcome back into another episode of the solo group hardcore series where I am playing 4 group hardcore Ironman. So, just a single person controlling all 4, things definitely get dicey. So, let's jump right into some topics for discussion here. A lot of things have happened since the last video, so I'm going to try to do my best here to catch everybody up on what's actually been happening. So, let's start things off. I am clearly, my goal is to just finish off 99 all combat stats and Slayer alongside that, right? The best way to train combat would be to do Slayer due to all the profit and whatnot. Therefore, that's my goal. I'm definitely on my way to 99. So I'll demonstrate here. I'll show the highest level Slayer account of the 4. That's going to be your bottom left. That looks like I just passed 13 mil Slayer XP. So since the last video, I did explain that I got an imbued heart finally. It was on this account. It was doing a Necryl task. I was just barraging Necryls. You get the superior, and I think I'm closing in on like 200 to 300 superiors for the account as I'm about to hit 99. So, you know, depending on the monster you actually kill for the superior, the imbued heart drop rate significantly improves. So, for example, you can do, Dust Devils or Kurask. They have a superior, or even Bloodvelds, but the chance to get the heart is like a 1 in 700-ish from those specific ones because they're like 70 or lower Slayer. Whereas like Necryl, Abyssal Demons, all the way up to even the Thermonuclear, or it's not the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, but it's the superior Smoke Devil. Those heart drop rates significantly improve as you get up to that high of a Slayer level monster. So you have basically you basically have a much better chance to get the heart from those higher level Slayer monster tasks. So yeah, I ended up getting that from a greater Necryl, as I was saying, and yeah, it really shined at the Zulrah grind that I've been working on. So with the Western Elite Diary, I have been slowly chipping away at Zulrah KC, going for all the Zulrah drops. So the way it started out was I ended up getting a Magic Fang and then a Serp. So I was able to then use the upgraded Trident of the Swamp to take on a lot of the Zulrah KC that I did from an early KC, probably about 120, 130 is when I got that. And then shortly after, so around 200, I got a Serp Visage as well. So there I was able to do Zulrah with both of those drops, which are massive upgrades. Now, I would always take Onyxes, which is another one of his rare drops, because I was currently creating a lot of my Zenites into Zenite jewelry, and you have to consume 1 Onyx every time you want to make a piece of Zenite jewelry. So what ended up happening was I was trying to get Onyxes from Zulrah, but it took me over 1,000 some KC, and I just didn't get any Onyxes. So I ended up just selling Chaos, the normal method that most people would take, to the Tizar rune store. You just spam click the sell 50 option, and I think it's about 9 Tokal per 50 or per chaos rune. So you sell 50 at a time, you're just getting like 450, 450, and you stack up to about 260,000 Tokal, and then wear your Karamja gloves, and then you can easily just purchase an Onyx from the store for about 260,000 Tokal. You need to be equipping the Karamja gloves for the discount, but it is definitely worth it. It only requires the easy diary at a minimum. So, hey, there's a black mask. So, yeah, highly recommend. Definitely get your Karamja diaries done and wear those gloves if you ever are also looking to purchase your Onyx as an Ironman, for example, trying to craft your Zenites. So, yeah, I was just doing the old Zora, going over 1,000 KC without the Tanzanite Fang, and at this point, I didn't even really care if I got any more Onyxes because my goal at that point, I had already made the Zenites, so I just wanted one Tanzanite Fang to be able to have a blowpipe for raiding and to be able to share it through the group storage system. So, I can share the blowpipe to any account by just throwing it in the group storage, so I didn't need duplicates. Ended up getting a total of 5 Serp Visages, as well as I got a second Magic Fang as well, and then I finally got my first Onyx about 1,300 or 1,400 KC. So I was going 2 to 3 times drop rate for these 1 in 500s. Every unique from Zora is about a 1 in 500 chance. So at about 500 KC, you should expect one of each, roughly. That's an average, right? That's if everything goes according to plan, but not everything goes according to plan, so I ended up going pretty dry there. But the good thing is that I have the Western Elite Diary done on the account doing the Zora, so I will showcase the stats here. I'm all the way zoomed in at Cave Horrors. So I ended up getting high mage as well from that. 95 range, pretty much leveling that mostly just off of attacking Zora with a rune crossbow. I was using Ruby Bolt's E because when they proc, you can hit 50s, and you could do that multiple times throughout the fight. Zora actually has a cap on the damage you can do. The most you can hit is like a 50. Even though the rubies would proc multiple times in a row and still hit 50s when he's even like 250 health or lower. At 500 health, when he's at the beginning of the kill, you're capped at 50 instead of being able to hit 100s with rubies, which is normally what those bolts with the enchantment can hit up to. So, but I still think they were good DPS because when it procs, it's just a guaranteed high damage hit early on in the fight because of the percentage based damage. So I used a lot of ruby bolts, and the reason I didn't use a lot of diamond bolts is because rubies are significantly more common than diamonds. Diamonds are, when I was mining stars and then using the stardust to buy gem packs, I looked at the ratios, and yeah, you'll get I probably got like, from the lot of gem packs that I bought, I probably got like 10,000 sapphires, like 6 or 7,000 emeralds, and then I got like 3,000 rubies, and then like 1,000 diamonds. So the ratios there of rubies to diamonds, and obviously the emerald and sapphires are much higher quantity, but those aren't as important. It's all about the ruby and diamonds for the tips to tip your bolts. And ended up noticing, okay, it was like a 1 to 3 ratio or something. It was crazy. So I'm just like, well, from all the stardust I have, I'm gonna have tons of rubies, so I'll be able to make tons of adamant bolts and tip them with the rubies and enchant them to Ruby Bolts E, which gives you that percentage based proc, versus diamond tip bolts enchanted. They have a proc effect as well, but that effect, instead of doing percent damage, it just pierces defense and gives you a little bit of a bonus max hit. So it's actually a really nice proc as well. It's just the fact that, well, I looked at it, and if I ever in the future for a raid find out that diamond bolts are better, or any boss in particular, then like Zilliana, for example, Zilliana, the Sarah God Wars boss, just doesn't have high enough HP to warrant doing like a percent based proc effect. You're much better off just taking diamond bolts so that you can proc through her defense and get a little bit of bonus max hit. So I ended up choosing to just use rubies at Zulrah because they would be in much greater supply, and if, like I said, if I ever wanted to actually use diamond bolts somewhere, I wouldn't be, limiting myself on how many I have left. I would still have a good ratio of rubies and diamond bolts to choose from. So, but yeah, this account has 98 mage, so that really helps. Obviously, I probably started the grind at like 95 or 96, and you get a ton of mage XP just through constantly killing him with the trident. So, got a lot of mage XP and range XP from Zulrah himself. The drops are excellent. He drops a lot of like snapdragon seeds, magic seeds. You can get some alks like from dragon halberds and meat helms, and then tons of like toad flax seeds. You get toad flax noted, you get torstal seeds and torstal noted herbs. Lots of good stuff for herb lore, mahogany logs, and then tons of runes that kind of fund all the trident charges that you use, because you have to use a lot of trident charges. So it's good that he drops like 300 death runes at a time, 500 chaos runes. So you profit chaos and you about break even on deaths. And obviously I was using scales in my helmet for the Serp helm to prevent poison, and scales for the trident as well. Therefore, but Zulrah drops scales, so got tons of scales in excess to be able to fuel those two items and get a surplus. I think I have like close to 200,000 scales extra here. Obviously, I've been filling all the items up to the max, and since I got over 4 Serp visages. I made the Serp helm for each one of my 4 accounts here, so they have that kind of it's one of the best in slot helmets. It's not actually tip top best in slot. There are helmets with higher strength bonus, but it's one of the highest strength bonuses in the game at +5. It has really, really strong defense, and it permanently prevents you from being poisoned. So I think it's a very valuable helmet to have in certain scenarios like Zami God Wars, or just even at Bandos, just having higher defense is nice. So Dagonoth Kings as well, wherever you want to go. Like, the permanent anti-poison effect is extremely valuable. So yeah, I have one of those with maxed out scales. I use it at Hespori. I use it for hard clues. So anything that poisons me, I basically throw it on. Being a hardcore Ironman, you have limited lives, right? Even in a group. So I only have 1 life left, and any hardcore Ironman solo is only on 1 life as well. So it is smart to utilize that type of protection and gear wherever possible, in the case that you disconnect or something happens. You're at least not poisoned to death. So ended up taking me about 1726 KC, I believe, is when I finally got the blowpipe. I was going so dry. I was over 1500 KC, which is 3 times the rate. And I'm like, man, I'm really going dry on this thing. I just ended up kind of zoning out and doing Zulrah day after day, expecting just to get the drop any moment. And finally, after 1700, now it took so long, it took weeks and weeks, because obviously you could only kill like so many Zulrah per hour. So my kills are about 2 minutes a pop on average, and maybe a little bit longer including the banking. So I could probably get like 25 kills an hour if I was really honed in on it. And the thing is that I accidentally would take fatal damage in there. Now, you do have a free revive once a day with the Elite Diary done in the Western provinces. So that is why I was able to safely do Zulrah as much as I wanted, as long as I waited till the next day for the revive proc. If I accidentally took fatal damage there, you heal to full and you don't actually lose a life. So That's one of the best places and best diaries for a hardcore account because you just have a guaranteed safety net. If you ever actually died there, you would just revive, and all you have to do is just teleport out and then go back when the revive is refreshed on the next day. So yeah, there were times where I would do like 2 kills and accidentally die. And so it's okay, gotta wait another 24 hours to come back, and then maybe 50 kills in, I accidentally die. I probably procced my diary anywhere from like 6 to 7 times. I did it quite a lot just because I'm trying to multitask so much. So it's not that I just completely dropped the ball. I just am focused. I was kind of doing Zora like AFK. Like I would get set up in the spot and attack him and put my prayer on, and then I would just look away and not even pay attention to the fight. As I know I have about 10 seconds where I'm just gonna try to Zora or crossbow him, and if you're preying on anything but like the Jad or the blue phase, then you don't really take damage. So it was really just the blue phase where he ranges you randomly that ended up doing a ton of damage randomly. And when I'm not looking, I ended up just taking a couple 40s, and then the incoming projectiles were also going to hit me hard. So I wasn't able to combo eat out of that. And so I procced the diary a few times, which isn't a big deal. I just waited to the next day and finally got my blowpipe. So in the meantime, I was mining a ton of amethyst darts. So I was mining tons of amethyst. I took a long time, but I finally got enough minerals to where the account mining the amethyst has now the maximized superior mining gloves. You have to combine the expert mining gloves and the regular mining gloves, which are purchasable from the shop. There's two types of gloves you buy from the shop. Can't remember if that's exactly what they're both called, but basically you buy both of them. They're like 60 and 120 minerals respectively, and then it takes another 60, and you talk once you have both and you have another 60 extra minerals, you talk to the NPC that sells you those gloves, and she will combine them into gloves that work for amethyst. Now, when I say work for amethyst, I'll explain what the gloves do. The gloves, when you're mining rocks, so for example, like gold, silver, and coal for one of the gloves, and the other one does myth, addy, and rune, there's a chance that the ore doesn't deplete from the source. So now neither of these gloves work for amethyst, but if you upgrade them and combine them, it then includes the amethyst. So I did upgrade them, and it makes it so that instead of mining the amethyst on the wall, and every single one that you get, it's guaranteed to deplete, and you have to move to another unit. With the gloves on, if it procs, which is a pretty high proc chance, it's like 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 or something, the ore doesn't deplete, and it can happen multiple times. So you could potentially get like 3 or 4 amethysts from a single one. Usually two, or more importantly, usually it's actually only one still, because it's unlikely that it procs. But when it procs, you get multiple, and your account just sits there continuing to mining. So definitely an important AFK mechanic for me to do, or having to multitask on this many accounts at once. It's important for me to be able to like pay attention less to the amethyst. Every single one that it mines, I'm limited to one amethyst, whereas if I click amethyst on the wall, I might come back to having like mined 3 of them, if I forgot to look back or something because the gloves popped off. So that's always super, super nice to know that that was working in my favor. So yeah, while I was doing the Zora, I was mining the amethyst to be able to stack a ton for darts. Now, I do have the crafting level on my highest level crafter. I'm in the 90s, so I easily was able to chisel it into dart tips. That's no problem. Now, I want to make the dart tips into the darts, so you have to add feathers, and this requires a very high fletching level. It requires 90 fletching, so I looked at all four accounts and none of them had super, super high fletching. So I looked at one that was like 80 something and I ended up just sitting there and fletching tons of maple logs from Kingdom of Miscellanea. I was fletching yews and magics that I had cut into just longbows. And then I did a ton of darts, like mithril dart tips. I did a ton of broad arrows and broad bolts, as well as trying to do, you know, arrow shafts attaching them to feathers, which gives obviously a low amount of XP, but it ends up adding up. And you need that to do the broad arrowheads onto the arrow shafts. So, just got fletching from many, many sources, and I ended up, I'm currently 88, I'm closing in on 89. The level you need for amethyst is 90, so I can just make a dragon fruit pie. So the dragon fruit from the newer dragon fruit seeds, it's one of the newer fruit trees that exists in the game. Um, you can make a pie from the fruit, and the pie gives a +4 guaranteed fletching boost. So instead of having to fuss with the stews and go for a high boost so I can fletch darts for a little bit, I can just make those pies, make a couple of them, and then I can boost from this 88 or 89 to over the level like 93. And then as that drains every 60 seconds, I'll still be able to fletch darts for a couple minutes until I finally drop to my base level of 89 or 88. So I ended up mining like 5,000 or something amethyst, and you get 8 dart tips per amethyst. So I do have probably 40,000 or more darts for the blowpipe. So that was the one good thing about going dry at Zulrah is I took 1,700 some KC to finally get my first Tanzanite Fang. But having done that much KC, I have a ton of scales to be able to endlessly use all my Zulrah items because they all take scales. Now, I wasn't too excited about that because fishing sacred eels is an excellent way to gain AFK XP and sort of park the way my accounts are. I'm always looking for ways to park an account just sitting at like a scaling method, especially something like infernal eels or sacred eels where I don't have to pay attention or ever leave the area. I can just click randomly over on the side. That's perfect for alting like I do. So I am, I wasn't super thrilled because I could always get Zulrah scales from doing that on an alt account. But it's fine. I was able to stack a ton of scales and the drops were decent. And so I finally do have access to a blowpipe with amethyst stars, and that's insane. I really wanted this in the first place for things like doing fight caves. So like in the fight caves, you have to kill a lot of like those little blobs that have the little spawnlings with 10 HP, and then you have to kill the little bird with 10 HP. The ranger only has 40 health. That's a couple blowpipe hits, whereas with the crossbow, you have to slowly use a 5-tick crossbow speed to whittle down those like little guys, and it just takes a lot longer. So I did do a fire cape on this guy. It took me over an hour to do it just because crossbow is so terrible. But now with the blowpipe, I should be able to do it in like 40 to 45 minutes easily, maybe even less. So I was really looking to get the blowpipe for raids and things like that, where I just want to expedite how quickly I can do that type of event. So yeah, I did finally snag it, and whatever it's over and done with. I'm not super upset that I went like almost 4 times the rate for it. I ended up getting a low amount of uniques in general. Like I did get 5 Serp helms, which is good, but I only got 2 magic fangs and 1 onyx and the 1 tanzanite. So I should have like 3 of each roughly, and I'm severely under the rate for all of 3 of those items. So I don't have the 4 magic fangs to be able to share on all 4 of these guys. So I will have to choose which accounts end up using the trident. So for that reason, I'm kind of going to be blocking Kraken on a lot of these guys. I think the only account I will do Kraken on is going to be the main one here that I did Zora on because I'm like already high mage level, and Trident slaps when you have a high mage level, so I'll end up just only doing Kraken on him and blocking it on the other accounts. And I have a Tormented Bracelet and an Imbued Heart, so I have pretty sick mage gear. The reason I don't want to do it on more accounts is not because I don't have any dupes. I do have the dupe Magic Fang that I can use, but if, for example, I got a Kraken task while doing one on the other guy, then I can't share all my good stuff. I can't share the Tormented Bracelet, and I can't share the Imbued Heart because I only have one of them. So if one guy's in there doing Kraken using those two things, the other guy has to do it without it. So I'd rather just only do Kraken on one account, and they're not super beneficial to my account. I just kind of do it for the AFK chill XP, and you get some decent drops like Sandfew serums and stuff. So I have a good source of Sandfew serums coming in from that type of boss. So yeah, ended up being done with Zora. It's a super nice feeling to just say, okay, I finally got all the uniques, and I'm finally done. I've been working so long on that. I've spending the large majority of the time I was playing having to focus on doing Zora, because when you're doing Zora and you're trying to play 3 other hardcore Ironmen, you're kind of limited on what you can do. I ended up just doing a lot of fishing, did a lot of mining, did a lot of star mining before they heavily hit it with the nerf. And yeah, finally, now that I got it, I'm freed up and I am able to sort of move on with the account. So yeah, I got back into Slayer again. Now that I'm not doing Zora, I can focus on Slayer. Like when you get a burst task, it's a real big pain in the neck for having 4 accounts because I need to do a lot of clicking. I need to, you need to dart each individual monster and then stack them up. You need to switch spellbooks, change your rune pouch out, get the full equipment set up and whatnot, and then go there and then start doing your burst task like Necro or Dust Devils. And it's like, there's so much you have to manage. It's easy to die in that scenario, and then all the meanwhile, I'm trying to pay attention to another 3 accounts that are also require attention and all that jazz. So it's not super ideal to do a ton of burst tasks. That's why I couldn't really do it while doing Zora. But in the process of doing Slayer, I was getting Basilisk Knights, and this is actually wild. So one day I just got a Basilisk Jaw, and I was about closing in on 2,000 kills across my 4 accounts. Hadn't gotten any yet, and then I got one, and I'm just thinking, okay, that's cool. I'll stick around and go for some dupes. Like I wasn't gonna just block the task permanently or remove the unlock for the task, which blocks it, because you have to actually pay Slayer points to unlock getting basilisks. So what you can do is you can just unlock that, and you will no longer get basilisks. Now, I was like, well, it could be nice to have multiple face guards as dupes because God Wars and the prayer bonus, it's good defense and it's 6 strength bonus, so it's the highest strength bonus I can have access to. So I stuck around for a bit, and on a second account, I got another Basilisk Knight task. So I ended up going there, and I was crossbowing him in the safe, from a distance, safe spot with Prey Mage, and I ended up sniping another jaw on the other account that got the task, and I'm just like, wow, okay. My clan's just seeing me get these like spoon-fed, drops. I think it was like the second day, so it was the day after I got the second one, and so I'm sitting there with a Basilisk Jaw on one account on the left, and then a Basilisk Jaw in the bottom of my inventory on the right account. So um, ended up just going absolute berserk. So I banked that one. I had to come back because the one account that got one, had like a big 200 something Basilisk task. So I ended up having to bank for more prayer pots, come back, and I ended up getting just another jaw on one of the accounts, and then like 30 minutes later I got another jaw. So I already had 2, and then I got another one and another one that was 3 and 4. And then like I'm just like closing it. I got like 7 basilisks left on task, and I'm like, okay, I have all four. I'm just gonna now permanently remove the task. I'm done. I don't ever need to kill these again. I got a fifth one too. They were just it was just left and right. They were just popping out. I got 5 total jaws, 4 in 1 day, and the 4 in 1 day were like within 2 hours of each other. It was just absolute nuts. It was so insane. So I had 5 jaws. I actually just was so wild, and my clan was like freaking out. Everyone's like, "Oh my god!" I literally just went and dropped it to one of my friends because he needed a face guard, and he's a main account. So I ended up dropping the fifth dupe just to my buddy from the clan chat. So he basically just got like a 20 mil item for free, and I've already given him other dupes and other GP and stuff from my main. So it's not a super big deal to me. It really helps him out, so I'm happy to do that type of thing, and I don't need a fifth basilisk jaw. So I'm perfectly fine dropping that over, helping him out, and yeah. So that's the story on how I now have a Serp helm and a Knight's face guard on all four accounts. I don't need to fuss with the group storage. Very, very convenient because the face guard is so annoying to groups share. It's not tradable, but you can dismantle it and get your Nezzy helm and your jaw back. So it's super convenient now that I don't ever need to disassemble it to be able to trade it, because those are the only two tradable components. The face guard, once assembled, isn't tradable. So if I want to transfer it, I'd have to do that disassemble process and then throw the individual jaw into the storage, and it would just be so annoying. So super glad I just have that all out of the way. I have Zora knocked out of the way. I got an imbued heart last video from Slayer. I have 4 Zenites total from Demonic Gorillas, which I got many weeks ago. I've talked about that before. I have 2 pairs of Primordial Boots, which I use for Slayer. So that's nice because I'll try to only do Slayer on like 2 accounts. Right now I'm doing 3, but if I were to only do Slayer on 2 accounts, then each one of them can utilize a pair of prims. So it's nice to just have the best in slot boots. And what else was I gonna say? And that I have, with that serve grind, I have like 5 Pegasians. So I have all 4 Pegasians, and I have 3 Eternal Boots. I have all the Infinity Boots to make the Eternal Boots with. I just am missing 1 more crystal. So if I ever go back to Serb, it would be for more Prims and more Eternals. But yeah, besides that, I have 3 Dragon Warhammers. I'm never going to go back for a 4th. I think I've realized that I don't need more than 3. I don't really even need more than like 1 or 2, but um, I am just going to sit on the 3 hammers that I did get. So with the 4 Zenites, I made 1 of each jewelry. I said, look, I wanted duplicate. I wanted like more than 4. I wanted multiple rings of suffering, but I honestly just don't really enjoy those long black demon tasks at demonic gorillas. So I just said, look, I'm just gonna make 1 of each Zenite. That way I have them. If I want to share them, I can. And that came into fruition because that's really, really important. So I I definitely made the right decision there, because now having access to them, a torture, a tormented bracelet, and an anguish, and a suffering for raids or Zora or whatever, I now am no longer limited by those factors. So yeah, and then some of the last things I was gonna bring up in this chain of drops that I've acquired is the Dagonoth King rings. So I have 3 Berserker rings. I would have liked to have 4, but I do have 3, and I have like 2 or 3 Seers and Archers rings. So I don't really ever need to go back to DKs. I have enough rings. I can always throw the Berserker ring from the account that here has an imbued Ring of Suffering that I was doing Zora on. I could throw that Berserker Ring to the 4th account, so each one will either have a Suffering um, or a Berserker Ring imbued, which is nice for like group God Wars where I'm meleeing. So they'll either have that +8 strength bonus, or my tank will have the Ring of Suffering. So currently I'm just trying to do this. There we go. Enchanted my staff to a Mystic Fireball staff for this clue step. So yeah, PvM wise, I'm very set up for entering like raids and stuff. I needed the blowpipe for Chambers of Zarek and TOA because I needed higher range DPS on low defense targets like Tightrope and Mutterdile and stuff. So it's also nice to just have that spec to heal being hardcore. So super glad I finally have all these PvM drops to start entering raids, because I really need to look towards doing some raids and getting working towards like a set of preserve scrolls. So preserve's pretty common from raids 1, and if I get duplicates, the Torn Prayer scrolls, I can then share preserved all 4 accounts, so that'll be nice. I want to go for Rigor and Augury on my main raiding account, so that'll be nice. And then I can start entering TOA. When I have that, I can do Corrupted Gauntlet for the Bofa and Crystal Armor. So there's a lot I want to do as far as raiding, and having now access to the blowpipe kind of enables me to start going for these raid goals. So yeah, I really am expecting to be doing some raids here in the short upcoming weeks. I think it's wise for me to wait until they make all these quality of life updates to Chambers of Zarek. There's going to be a ton of quality of life. Mainly, one of the best ones is going to be it's actually like a safe quality of life thing. It's going to be that Olm can't spawn a portal as far away from you as he used to. He used to be able to just spawn the teleport portal in a solo Olm as far as he wants. So it can be in the far corner of the room, and you take 5 damage every tile that you're away from the portal. So you can take a 50 easily because it can be across the room. And sometimes with the visual and stuff, with it like flashing, like you might just not even see it at certain times. So that was one of the scary things that I was hoping would change, was that in Chambers the portal effect doesn't take me out. You know, it can hit you pretty hard if you don't see it, and it's almost inevitable that you'll get this effect sometimes, because in setting up the 4-to-1 or 4-to-0 method, you pretty much have to gamble sometimes in order to have this effect occur. So you don't know what cycle he's in when you first set up 4-to-1, so you're most likely going to get portaled every now and then, and so that's super nice to be able to have that quality of life change, which will make raiding and doing all much safer. So I might just be waiting for that, and in the meantime I'm just training my stats. My stats aren't like as maxed as I'd like. I want to finish 99 strength. Going for 99 attack defense helps, but you know, having higher mage, I'm only 93 mage, so you know, getting higher through bursting and stuff, so my trident hits harder, and you know, having stuff like the Tormented Bracelet, the Occult, that'll really help to have a super high mage level as well. So yeah, lots of raiding coming up, and the quality of life updates, they sound really good. I was really excited to hear that they were actually going through with it, because Chambers has been sort of untouched and unloved for a very long time. So it's nice to see that they're changing some things to like the thieving room and the ice demon room, where you would have to bank your full inventory because all the grubs and the logs that you cut and stuff, they aren't stackable, but now they're going to make them stackable in one inventory slot. So that's going to be really nice. You just have to bank like a couple of your brews in the chest, or even just drop them. I might just drop like 2 brews and then go pick up an axe and a tinderbox, and then you go chop logs, and because they stack, and you can thieve grubs, and again because they stack, you can do those 2 types of rooms with without having to like bank your entire inventory. So that's going to be a really, really nice quality of life change. And having blowpipe with amethyst darts, I can finally successfully DPS those rooms down. Mystics, shamans, all this stuff. It's gonna be super, super nice. I can finally have that and work towards, yeah, like I said, rigor and preserve. Having preserve just to hold my boost longer for like super strength and attack pots during Slayer, imbued heart effect. If I ever go back to Zora, just whatever the case is, right? Like preserve is always just handy to have access to. So I will be looking forward to getting 4 duplicate torn prayer scrolls so I can do that. So, but yeah, just on the note of closing in on finishing my Slayer, I'm finally almost 99 here, and I'm gonna keep slaying until I'm 99 attack, so I'm about a mil XP off. When I finally get 99 attack, then I can officially transition this account to just be on the side burner, the back burner of the stove, and I'll just be skilling and stuff, and I'll just be slowly obtaining supplies, doing farm runs, birdhouses, etc., while the other accounts start to do Slayer, because the other accounts are currently on the back burner. So um, I will essentially transition to a different slaying account until the other accounts, because this one will have nothing left to gain from attack, strength, defense. I'll be 99 all. I would just still want, obviously prayer, higher range, but I can always crab range with like broad bolts or bone crossbow. Like I can throw darts. I can do range AFK with crabs, but I will probably, yeah, we'll see how I get 99 range. Maybe I will just do crabs, but and then obviously I'm only 300k off 99 mage here, so closing in on just complete max combat in all regards. 124 combat currently, and high prayers super quality of life for things like a raid or god wars. Wherever I'm using prayer, having like 90 plus is super good quality of life, because your potions restore extra prayer points per dose, so it's just a huge efficiency thing to have a super high prayer level going into things, because then your pray pots and your restores, they all restore more points per sip. So that's super, super nice. And yeah, as I transition to the other accounts doing Slayer, that's to have them all high statted. I want 99 defense, 99 attack, 99 strength, because I want to be as tanky as possible. I want to be as accurate as possible when it comes to just normal hits and my Dragon Warhammer specs on these bosses. And then I also want 99 strength just to have the highest max hit possible. Dang, double coif. That's the third ancient coif I've gotten. And so that I have plenty of dupes, but I got a Ceradomin coif, which is really nice because I can use that at like Sarah and stuff. So hey, that's pretty cool. Definitely take that. So yeah, the goal is to just get into raids here once these quality of life changes happen. Slowly transition multiple counts that aren't as high in combat. It's like I'm currently like 90 Slayer. This guy has 89. This guy has 90. So I'm like 90-ish Slayer on these two side accounts, the ones I have not been focusing as much. So they are falling behind on the combats. They're only like 85 attack and defense. So I will want to just, with a whip, use controlled, finish off 99 strength on them, because they're closing in. They're like, everybody's like 97 or higher strength. So won't be long. Once I'm 99 strength, I'll switch my whip to defense, which is what I did on the main slaying account. And I would use deflect on the whip, so train defense with the whip until I'm 99 defense, just ignoring my attack. I'll just leave my attack at whatever it is, like 88, 90, whatever, because attack's less important. Although attack does help your DPS and your accuracy, the way I want to do Slayer is with the defense cape trimmed for good defense bonus. It has the Ring of Life effect permanently, and it has 4 prayer bonus, so it's not even lacking in the prayer stat. Uh, super nice, and in conjunction with the Berserkering Eye, it's a better option than a Fire Cape and a Ring of Life. So if you want to do Slayer with a Ring of Life effect, you're better off using a Defense Cape trimmed with a Berserkering Eye. That is the better option as opposed to, like I said, the Fire Cape and Ring of Life, because the Ring of Life has no stats. So you're basically wearing a Fire Cape versus a Berserker Ring and a Skill Cape trimmed. So the Skill Cape trimmed and the Berserker Ring have more strength bonus and more prayer. So it's just a better overall combo. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be just swapping over, Berserker Ring, Prims, Torture, Imbued Heart, Tormented Bracelet, whatever I need to throw over to the other accounts to be able to do Slayer a little bit better. I can throw all that gear over because he'll be 99 Slayer and 99 Combat. So from then on, that's my tank. There's my tanky guy. This is going to be my God Wars tank. I have the Ring of Suffering imbued because I did the Zulrah on here. So I already have the Ring of Suffering imbued, which is an insane defensive ring for tanking at God Wars. So when it comes to Zami and Bandos, which is upcoming, I'm just going to be able to... I have 99 defense, so I'm the tankiest possible I can be. I'm going to be wearing like powerful Barrows armor. I'm going to be utilizing Guthans and just tank Barrows armor to be able to tank the Bandos range hits when possible. And then I have like Carol's tops for stuff like Zami, where he has a mage attack and you actually can defend against it if your mage defense is high enough. So utilizing Carol's tops and other good defensive gear like a Varric skirt or tank legs, tank helm, I can do Zami and Bandos very, very cleanly and safely, because having just 99 defense means you're just that much more likely to tank the minion attacks that roll on your defense, as well as the boss's actual attacks where you can't pray against. For like, instance, Bandos, you're praying melee because he can smack you for 60s constantly with his melee, but he can choose to use a ranged attack which you can't pray against because you have to pray melee. So anytime he chooses to range you, you're just susceptible to being hit up to a 35 from that. So that's a lot of damage. That's a big, scary hit to be tanking frequently. And yes, I will still get hit 35s with 99 defense and good tank armor, but it will just reduce, the possibility of that significantly. So slowly working to get them all up to like max combat through Slayer, making a ton of money. You get a ton of good seeds from Slayer tasks. You get herbs. You get, rune items for alks like rune ore, bars. You get runes like bloods, deaths, like I'm doing Vires here. I get blood shards from this. You get uniques. Just tons of stuff. Like gargoyles are good for ore, for smithing. Like there's so much you get from Slayer. So I am excited to just continue to get that Slayer up, get my stats up in the meantime, and look forward to doing this group bossing with all four, because that's truly going to be the pinnacle of this series. Like I think that's going to be the hardest challenge that I've ever done in RuneScape in general. And having to control 4 hardcore Ironmen into a Bandos fight, like I get it that I have 4 accounts to DPS him out, so it's not going to be anywhere similar to like a solo where you're limited on DPS because you're just one dude and you're tanking as well. Like I'm gonna have a lot of attackers doing a lot of damage. I'll be using Thralls, I'll be using Dragon Warhammer specs, I'll be using a Tentacle Whip, I'll be using insanely statted gear and high attack stat, high strength. I'll be close to 95 or higher attack on each guy, so my DPS will be there, but that doesn't mean that your tank can still just get hit over and over by his 30s and the ranged attack, the minions as well. So the mage minion definitely rips you up because you're in tank gear, so your mage defense is typically not super high. So it's going to be the most difficult thing, because as my tank is being mercilessly hit by the boss and getting chipped down by the minions,
So I need to constantly focus on him primarily. I have three other accounts that are going to be whittled down as well by the minion chip damage. So it's not just a cakewalk. I can't just focus on the tank. I need to maintain my health and prayer on the other three accounts, because if anything falters, if I slip up anywhere in this fight and like one of my alt attackers drops prayer, right? Like maybe their prayer drains, or forgot to drink restore before the boss spawns. Maybe I wasn't prepared when the boss spawned. Maybe I was, you know, just blanked out, and I forgot to super restore up some prayer, and then okay, the boss spawns and then he starts charging in on my other dudes, and I wasn't ready to pull aggro with my tank, and he gets on another account. Like that's pretty much just a four-man telly. Like I'm just gonna have to dip. So in order to effectively do this boss, I'm imagining I need to be super like laser focused, just super pristine in all my movements. I just need to be flawless with this entire process. So definitely God Wars Dungeon will be the most difficult thing I think I've ever taken on in this entire game. So being hardcore and being this four-man group, so it's gonna be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be very fun, but it's also gonna be the hardest thing I think that someone can kind of do in terms of alting, is to put them all four, like life on the line, in danger and under a lot of duress from these difficult bosses. So, um, yeah, I explained, I got all these jaws in this video, and my plans for just continuing to max combat, and I finally finished Zulra. I got my fire cape or whatever. Like, it's a lot has happened in the past weeks, so I do anticipate entering raids and looking forward to God Wars, continuing to plan it out, continuing to solidify some gear. I do think my gear is getting to the point where there isn't too much more I can obtain. I'm gonna be using amulets of fury for the hybrid there. So a torture is better offensively than a fury, but you lose a ton of defense. You lose a ton of defense. You lose all of it's plus 15 to all defensive styles, and that includes mage. So, mage defense is typically understated when it comes to like defenses. For example, like a Carol's top, it might have like plus 30 or something mage defense, but it has like plus 80 melee and range defense. So in terms of like numbers wise, mage defense is usually underperforming, right? Like the items, your gear typically has the lowest quantities in magic defense. But that's where the Ring of Suffering and the Amulet of Fury shine the most, is because they have just an equal amount in all styles. Ring of Suffering has plus 20 to all, so it's plus 20 slash, stab, crush, ranged, and magic. So being equal on the plus 20 to magic defense, and this is what the Fury does too. The Fury has 15 to all those. So Fury and Ring of Suffering are amazing for magic defense, because they don't have like a lower value on magic defense like other parts of gear, right? Like it's some other types of gear, right, might have like 30 stab slash crush and then like 40 range defense, but then like 10 magic defense. So like some pieces of gear definitely limit their magic stat, numbers wise there, for the volume of magic defense they give, but the Fury does not. So although the Torture is higher offensive bonuses, it's not worth that trade-off, being a hardcore and being in a tank scenario. When you're tanking minions and tanking monsters, it is important to have stacked defense stats, as well as it's 3 prayer more than a Torture, the Fury. So I'm going to be using 4 Amulets of Fury in Bandos and Zami. This is going to give me 8 strength bonus, 10 to offensive, so that's fine, as opposed to the 10 strength and 15 offense accuracy bonuses from the Torture. So it's a little bit lower, but I get the full 15 to all defensive stats, which includes magic, which I will need to actually be tanking. So I'll be using a Carol's Top and the Fury for primarily the majority of my mage defense bonuses. So those two items alone should make me pretty resilient against the mage minion in both God Wars rooms. So that's going to be important. Gear wise, like I said, I have the Justice, or not Justice Shear, but the Knights and Off face guards. So I have those 4 face guards, so I will be probably using them. That's +6 strength bonus and 3 prayer. So I really like this because the thing that the Nezi was always good at is it was always excellent at, everyone knows it's 3 strength bonus or whatever, so it's good for strength, melee, training, or whatever, but it gives that 3 prayer bonus, which just makes it all that more convenient to just have piety and an overhead prayer on permanently, right? Like I'm losing so much prayer by having these prayers on that it's very convenient and a good quality of life to just have this extra prayer bonus. So I do have that. I will look to maybe return to a little bit of Barrows because I would like to get every account having a Varric skirt. So for the same reason, the face guard is really nice for having some prayer. Varric skirt has that same excellent prayer hybrid effect, but it's also very tanky, just like Torag and Darok legs. So my current option right now is to use Torag or Darok legs. I only have 1 Varric skirt, so if I was to go back and get more Varric skirts, it would give my 3 alt attackers more prayer, like sustain throughout the God Wars fights. So I might end up doing some of that, see if I can snipe some Varric skirts. But other than that, like I have the 4 Carol's tops, I have the 4 or the Knights and Not face cards, and I have the 4 Furies, obviously. So my gear's pretty much there. I have 3 sets of Guthans, so I'm gonna figure out how many accounts I want to use Guthans with. I'll probably use Guthans on my tank because he's guaranteed to take a lot of damage, and then I'll probably bring Guthans on like 1, or maybe just I'll bring all 3 sets. So I'll bring 2 of the attacker accounts with the set so I can heal up in between on minions because they will take chip damage, not as much as the tank, but I'm just wondering how difficult it's going to be to go from a switch into a full set of Guthans, as well as that's like 4 inventory slots. You got to make sure that you have 1 empty space because going from the defender and the tent whip to the spear is a 2-handed weapon, so you gotta manage that. Like doing this 4-on-4 accounts is where it becomes an issue, right? It's obviously a no-brainer that you should bring Guthans in a Team Bandos event, but it just comes down to like how can I as one person manage all this on the 4 clients? Like that's the true fight. So we'll see how it all pans out. Look forward to it in the upcoming future videos and whatnot. Again, I'm just sort of hashing out the rest of my Slayer gains. I finally finished in on 1 account, and I will be transitioning to the other 3. The second one here is the highest. I'm almost 99 strength. I'm 91 attack defense. About to hit 93 Slayer on him, so I'm closing in on like a second account being pretty much maxed. Expect that to happen in like a month or so. Probably just a few more weeks of slaying on some of these accounts, and they'll be getting their stats to closing in on that like 99 defense, 99 strength that I kind of really want. And then apart from that, and raiding for some torn prayer scrolls and potentially doing some TOA for the Fang or the Light Bearer. My gear's pretty much there for doing God Wars, and I really want to do Zami God Wars with my Greater Demon tasks because I can get 4 Greater Demon tasks on all 4 accounts and just absolutely mercilessly wreck him. Like I can just tear Zami apart. Absolutely, like there will be no shot of him surviving much more than a couple of volleys of arc lights because on task with the arc light and dragon warhammers, like he's just gonna melt. Um, so I want to go for a Zami spear because I need the spear for a stab weapon at TOA. So Chambers of Zarek though, my gear's kind of there. I can just use a tentacle whip and I can use use my Dragon Warhammer and Blowpipe and my Magic Fang there. So I have pretty much the gear needed for Chambers of Zarek and TOA. I'm just missing the Hosta, and I would like some Bandit's armor potentially. Even just like a Bandit's God Sword would be nice to eventually do Corpse. So yeah, look forward to the upcoming, group God Wars events. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of chaos, and eventually we'll look at doing like Sarah and Armadil as well. Those two bosses are no joke. I think Arma will probably be the most chill because if you just pray range, you're pretty susceptible with a ton of mage defense. So I just use like D'hide and Carols and just keep everybody high health and just rag bolt him with Diamond E bolts, and he should go down pretty quick. I can also get 4 Aviancy tasks too for that. So being able to use the Slayer helmet bonus at Zami and Armadil is going to be nice because on the way here to getting 99 Slayer and maxing out all my combat stats, I'm not only fully prepared stat wise, but I'm going to have tons of Slayer points to be able to freely manage and skip tasks and store. There's task storage now, so I unlock that. It costs like 1,000 points. So I have thousands and thousands of Slayer points in excess to where I can conveniently store and manage my Slayer tasks to where if I ever do God Wars, I can be sure that I have the appropriate tasks on all 4 accounts, which it's not like, okay, yeah, nobody, it's not like that's all it's super difficult to do. It's just inconvenient because let's say I'm looking to get 4 greater demon tasks for Zami. I get a greater demon task of 200, and now that account cannot do Slayer anymore. So the task storage system like allows me to continue then doing Slayer while having it stored, while the other accounts consistently go back to Duradel, finish their task, go to Duradel, get a new task. Oh, he says do Dust Devils, do Kurask. Like, there's so many things they can assign you that you're not guaranteed to just get the task you need immediately, when the other one does. So getting them all lined up on all 4 accounts will take some time, and the convenience of having like excess Slayer points to be able to skip and store tasks as needed means that I will have some pretty nice convenience and quality of life through that. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. I do thank everybody for tuning in and listening to the video. Make sure you drop a subscribe on the YouTube and leave some comments if you liked the video. So, yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.